The bad birds of Stoke-on-Trent. One would assume, considering all the colossal hoo-ha surrounding the feral pigeons, that the skies would be blackened with them, that the streets would be full of feces. Such is not actually the case. What you see actually is a small amount of birds enjoying themselves in their freedom. Some had been former carrier pigeons, I suppose generations gone back, some racing pigeons, but anyway, each one of them enjoying a good time. Not many there, as you can see, but there's the odd one or two scavenging around for little bits and crumbs that have been chucked on the side. But more often than not, you'll see pies and pasties just chucked and slat on the floor, and of course the birds are going to eat it, and where there's a heavy food source, then there's going to be an explosion in the numbers of birds. But actually the bird population that we see in and around the pottery centre in Hanley is not that great. In fact, if you take it on a par with Trafalgar Square, it would seem that in comparison, that is, that we don't have a bird or a feral pigeon problem at all. Some say that they carry all kinds of horrible diseases, but what are we to do? If these birds didn't clean up after all the mess that we make with chucking down, as I say, pies and pasties and things like that, then the pies and pasties and cakes and things would remain on the floor. This would bring in the rats. They would proliferate into a virtual plague. Now, I don't know about you, but I personally love seeing these little pigeons around the place. I'd certainly rather see these going around, keeping the streets of Hanley clean, than a plague of rats. But when you think about the problem itself, it's us that are to blame for the population explosion, if there is any, because we keep chucking the food down. In fact, if we didn't chuck the food down on the floor, there would be no problem at all with the birds. Absolutely no problem at all. In fact, the birds would be gone overnight, because where there's no food source, there's no birds. Myself personally, and I'm sure a lot of little children, would not like to see thousands of birds exterminated in our town centres. Certainly just basically because of what we chuck down, or they chuck down. But feeding these birds is not the way forward. It's not the thing to do, because it causes real problems. Particularly in the areas where people sit and they drop food, of course birds are going to come around to clean up after us. I think they do a pretty good job. We need to not chuck things about, papers with bits in and things on the floor. If we weren't so basically messy, we'd have a perfectly clean town with just a few pigeons. So really the problem that's occurring in Hanley Town Centre is not a problem of the birds. It's the problem of us dropping litter. Now I know which one's the easiest one and the kindest one to sort out, rather than extermination. Of course, some are always going to have a problem, but that is life. What we can actually start to do is to forget that we do owe a certain amount of a debt to pigeon kind, because actually they were awarded, pigeon kind that is, were awarded more medals than all the dogs or the horses that ever took part in World War I or World War II. And we can forget that as we see them playing around and enjoying themselves. We're talking here about the character of Stoke-on-Trent, looking after the wildlife that we have responsibly. Imagine though how our cities would look, how our main city Hanley would look, if there were no birds at all, no pigeons. I mean, for 50 years I've known that they've been there. I mean, I used to feed them, as I say, as a boy, as indeed generations have done. It's all right, these planners having these ideas of making grand towns and improving things, but if we're just going to bulldoze away either the countryside or the birds that have flown around here for generations, I think we're actually taking the wrong course. In fact, some people don't just come here for the shops and merely to walk around. They also come for the birds. And of course the music. So really it's humans causing the problem. It'd be such a shame to see thousands of lovely pigeons decimated or exterminated every single year. I'd certainly rather see pigeons around the place than a plague of rats. So let's think about it and not throw food down, because these birds are actually as much a part of Stoke-on-Trent as what the population of humans are. Surely we wouldn't want any Nazi-style extermination of these lovely birds. We should act responsibly, not drop litter, clean up where we go, and if we do, we can still have lovely birds on the streets, pigeons, and have no health problem at all, if only we act more responsibly. To just kill thousands of birds is a monstrous thing to do.